Learning objectives. After completing this module, learners will be able to understand the need for elections and features of a democratic election, explain the merits and demerits of political competition, understand the difference between electoral and reserved constituencies in the Indian system of election, understand the process of preparing voters' list and filing of nominations, explain in detail the election campaigns, model of conduct during elections, understand and describe the process of casting and counting votes, understand the role of the Election Commission, describe in detail the challenges to a free and fair elections. Why do we need elections? The mechanism by which people choose their representatives at regular intervals is called election. If people are dissatisfied through elections, they get a chance to change the government in the next term. Elections give a voter the power to choose who will make laws for them, choose who will make the government and take major decisions, choose a party whose policies will guide the government and lawmaking. Features of a democratic election. The minimum conditions to be fulfilled in a democratic election are: 1. Every citizen should have the right to choose, which means every citizen should have one vote and each vote shall carry equal value. 2. A choice should be offered to the voters. There should be enough political parties or candidates to choose from. 3. Voters should be offered a choice at regular intervals. In India, elections are held at an interval of 5 years regularly. 4. Only the candidate preferred by people should be elected. 5. Elections should be held in free and fair manner, so that people can choose a representative of their choice without fear or favor. Political competition. Elections become meaningless without competition. Since there are many candidates aspiring to win the same constituency, a political competition is bound to take place. They try to win the confidence of voters through promises and incentives. Merits of political competition. Regular electoral competition provides incentives to political parties and leaders. They know that if they make promises on issues that people want to be addressed, their popularity and chances of victory will increase in the next. Due to political competition, a political party, despite its sole aim of acquiring power, will have to serve people. Failing to do so might not earn them victory in the next elections. It gives the voters a wide choice to select their representative. Demerits of political competition. It creates a sense of disunity and factionalism in every locality. Different political parties and leaders sometimes level false allegations against one another. Political parties and their candidates resort to dirty tricks to win the confidence of voters. Due to the pressure to win the elections, the leaders fail to formulate sensible long-term policies. They are solely focused on winning the elections. Some people who genuinely want to serve the country get discouraged by the unhealthy political competition. They choose not to enter politics at all. System of election in India. In our country, the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha assembly elections held regularly after every 5 years are called the general elections. The term of all the elected representatives come to an end after every 5 years. Election held in a constituency to fill a vacancy caused either due to death or resignation of a member is called by-election. Electoral constituencies. For the purpose of elections, our country is divided into different areas called electoral constituencies. For Lok Sabha elections, our country is divided into 543 constituencies. Voters in an area elect their representative. The representative elected from each constituency is called a Member of Parliament or an MP. Similarly, for Vidhan Sabha elections, a state is divided into assembly constituencies, and the elected representative is called the Member of Legislative Assembly or the MLA. Each parliamentary constituency is divided into several state assemblies. The panchayats and municipal elections also follow the same pattern. Each village or town is divided into wards, which are like constituencies. A representative is elected from these wards. Reserved constituencies. To give a fair chance to certain weaker sections to contest elections, our constitution makers provided for reserved constituencies for members of the scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. Only SC or ST candidates can contest elections from reserved constituencies. As on 1st September 2012, 84 seats are reserved for the SCs and 47 for the STs in Lok Sabha. OBCs or other backward classes get reservation in local body elections. Voters list and nomination of candidates. Voters list. After the constituencies have been finalized, a list of eligible voters is prepared for each constituency long before the elections. This list, officially called the electoral roll, is commonly known as the voters list. The voters list is updated every 5 years so that those who have attained the voting age may be included in the list, and names of those who have either moved out of a constituency or those who are dead may be deleted. The government has recently introduced the system of Election Photo Identity Card or EPIC. The idea behind EPIC is to prevent bogus voting. Though it is not compulsory as yet, identity can also be proven using driving license or ration card. Nomination of candidates. But for some rare cases of criminals, our system lays no restrictions on who can contest an election. The minimum age to contest an election is 25 years. Each party nominates a candidate, and this nomination is called party ticket. Every contestant has to fill a nomination form giving some basic details and a security deposit. Every candidate has to make a legal declaration about 1. Serious criminal cases pending against the candidate. 2. The assets and liabilities of the candidate and his or her family. 3. Educational qualifications of the candidate. This information is made public to enable the voters to judge a candidate on the basis of the information provided and vote wisely. Election campaigns. In our country, a 2-week campaign is allowed in a period between the announcement of the final list of candidates and the date of polling. The political parties try to educate the voters about their future programs by holding rallies, meetings, conducting road shows, or visiting voters door to door. They also take help of the print and electronic media. They make promises on sensitive issues like education, employment, corruption, etc. Our election law prohibits the following for all candidates: threatening or bribing the voters, appealing for votes in the name of religion or caste, using government resources in election campaign, spending more than 25 lakhs in a Lok Sabha constituency and more than 10 lakh in an assembly constituency. As per the Model Code of Conduct for election campaigns, candidates cannot use a place of worship, government vehicles, aircrafts or officials. Once elections are announced, ministers shall not lay foundation stones of any projects or take any major policy decisions. Polling and counting of votes. In recent times, instead of a ballot paper, electronic voting machines or EVMs are being used for voting. The voter needs to press the button against the symbol of the party or contestant he or she to vote. On a fixed date, the EVMs are opened and the votes counted. Candidate securing the highest number of votes in his constituency is declared elected. In general elections, counting is done on the same day in all constituencies. Within a few hours, it becomes clear which party shall form the government. What makes elections democratic in our country? Election Commission to ensure free, fair and democratic elections, a very powerful constitutional body, the Election Commission conducts elections in our country. It is independent of the government. The Chief Election Commission is appointed by the President, but post-appointment, even the President has no power to overrule the CEC's decisions. The powers of the CEC include: from announcement of the election dates to declaration of result, the CEC has complete control on the conduct of all election-related activities. It implements the Code of Conduct and punishes any candidate or party that violates it. During the election period, the EC can order the government to follow certain guidelines to prevent use or misuse of governmental powers to maximize its chances of winning. It may also order to transfer some officials. Government officers, when on election duty, are under the control of the EC and not the government. The election officials might sometimes opine that the polls conducted in a certain constituency or certain polling booths were not fair. In such a case, they might order a repoll. This may not be to the liking of the government, but it has to obey the EC's orders. This kind of fair and democratic elections would not have been possible if the Election Commission was not an independent and powerful entity. Popular participation. If elections were not conducted in a free, fair, and democratic manner, the masses would not be enthusiastic about it. People's participation in elections is measured through voter turnout on the day of election. In India, there has mostly been a greater voter turnout of the poorer sections compared to the middle or upper class. Acceptance of election outcomes. If the elections are fraught with malpractices, chances are only those with the might of money and muscle shall win. But the reality is otherwise in our country. The results prove it. 1. Ruling parties have lost elections both at national and state level many times. 2. A large number of sitting MPs and MLAs have lost elections. 3. Despite money power, candidates have lost elections. 4. Electoral outcomes are usually accepted by the losing political party as people's verdict. Challenges to free and fair elections. Some challenges to a free and fair election are: 1. Parties with money power have an unfair advantage over smaller parties or independent candidates with less money. 2. Some candidates, despite criminal track record, are able to obtain party tickets through their political connections. 3. Some families dominating the political scene tend to distribute party tickets amongst their relatives. It promotes dynastic rule. 4. Usually, the major political parties are similar to each other in policies and practices. This leaves the voter with a poor choice. All established democracies in the world face the similar challenges in their elections. This is why there is a call for reforms in the electoral system time and again. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. The mechanism by which people choose their representatives at regular intervals is called election. Every citizen should have the right to choose, which means every citizen should have one vote and each vote shall carry equal value. Political competition has both merits as well as demerits. In our country, the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha assembly elections held regularly after every 5 years are called the general elections. Our system of elections has electoral constituencies and reserved constituencies. A list of eligible voters prepared for each constituency is officially called the electoral roll or the voters' list. The minimum age to contest an election is 25 years. Each party nominates a candidate who has to fill a nomination form giving some basic details and a security deposit. Election campaigns are conducted as per the Model Code of Conduct for election campaigns. In recent times, instead of a ballot paper, electronic voting machines or EVMs are being used for voting. People's participation in elections is measured through voter turnout or the day of election. Elections are more or less democratic in our country, and the outcome is accepted by the defeated party as people's verdict. All established democracies face challenges while conducting free and fair elections.